Stardate 12122023. The U.S.S. Pathfinder has finally begun its 5-year journey into unknown space. It is day 1, and I'm already bored out of my mind. So I have decided to take it upon myself to educate the masses on how to be an excellent Starfleet captain in this trek into the stars. Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z42, and today we're actually going to be teaching you how to play Star Trek Captain's Log. This is the Star Trek Adventures light solo journaling game. That's kind of how I would describe it. It's very unique as it takes the Star Trek Adventures rules and it kind of lightens it up a little bit for solo play. Of course, you can treat this as a light version of Star Trek Adventures with a small group if you so wish, but I'm going to be running and teaching you guys how to play through at least a little bit of the game. So I've already created a character. His name is Captain Joaquin, and if you have not seen the character creation tutorial on that, go ahead and check the previous video for that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Now, in order to play Captain's Log, you're going to need a few things. You're going to need 2 20-sided dice. In the actual Modifius Line 2d20 system, you'll need at least 5, but in the light version of Captain's Log, I think you're only going to need 2, although you might want 3 because you do have the option of re-rolling a 2d20, I suppose, with momentum, things like that. You're going to need your Captain's Log character sheet as well as the bottom portion, which has the Starship character sheet or the Starship sheet. I've gone ahead and printed off a getting started guide. This is actually in the rulebook itself, and I've also got the generating missions types, although the back of the book is pretty good about telling you where all the relevant tables are. So before you get to the actual index, there's a whole sheet of, hey, these are the important tables and where to find them. So I'll definitely be making references to that. Of course, you're going to need something to write on because there's a lot of writing. This is a mainly narrative game. Yes, you do roll some of the times, but I find that when you embrace the narrative flow of the game, it tends to work a lot better than just rolling for the sake of rolling. So how do we set up? First, if you haven't already done so, you need to get your character rolled up and your starship figured out. Captain Federico Joaquin is actually going to be in the original series era, and so he's got a your standard Enterprise type ship. It's a class 4, so we've already got 4 talents on our starship. We've already got all that set up. After you create your character and ship, you're going to select your mission type. So you're going to roll on the mission profile and the subsequent specific mission types matrix, which begin on page 257. So let's go ahead and turn to page 257 and take a look at what we can roll on. So there are about 18 different mission types. So you have aid and relief, conspiracy, deep space exploration, defense, diplomacy, escort and evacuation, espionage, first contact, medical, near space exploration, patrol, planetary exploration, political, research and development, show the flag, spiritual, Starfleet, JAG, and tactical. If you roll a 19 or a 20, you roll 2 mission types, and I guess you combine them together. Since Captain Federico Joaquin is actually embarking on a 5-year mission into the unknown space, I figured that it would only fit proper, or at least for this episode, for this specific mission, that we would roll on the deep space exploration. So that's going to be a number 3. And there's 20 different options in this table. And so I'm going to go ahead and take one of my d20s and roll. We got a 6, which is Cosmozoan life form wants to mate with vessel. Wow, okay. Sure. Next, we need to roll for our theme and our incident, or I guess our incident and then our theme. And this is going to be our inciting incident. These are basically your probability matrices. There's 18 different ones with 19 and 20 rolling twice on each of the charts. So I'm going to go ahead and roll for incident first. We have a 19, so that means we get to roll twice and combine. So that's already interesting. We have two 14s, so save. Just kidding, we're going to reroll one of those. Save, and I believe that is a 1. So we're going to save and arrest. So save and arrest is our incident. That's kind of very interesting. Next, we get to roll on our theme. So let's go ahead and do so. We rolled an 11, which is a relic. So some form of a relic tied to saving and arresting. Next, we're going to see if we have some sort of advantage or some sort of a complication to our story. So what we're going to do, we're going to take 1d20 and roll that. If it's an even number, we get an advantage. If it's an odd number, we get a complication. We have a 9, which is a complication. So we're going to roll again and see what kind of a complication we have. And there's actually 19 of them with a 20 rolling twice. We have a 2. So inferior equipment. Complications arise due to poorly maintained gear or not having the right equipment readily available. Ooh, I actually really like that. Next, we get to roll an encounter. By now, you should have your mission type, incident theme, and advantage or complication affecting the mission figured out. Now, you can use the encounter's probability matrix to really make your mission one of a kind. First, roll on the table of encounter matrix below, then roll on the subsequent matrices that are specific. So we're going to take a d20 and roll for the type of encounter. We have a 7, which is deep space. You couldn't have asked for anything better on this 5-year journey. So we're going to look at the deep space chart right here and roll a d20. 15, secret intelligence outpost. Okay. So something that I'm going to do right here, I'm actually going to pause in the setup because there's something very important that is going on here. So we just rolled Deep Space Secret Intelligence Outpost, but it doesn't specify who. And so I think what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and roll. We're actually going to start asking some yes or no probability matrix questions. So I think this is going to be a 50-50 chance that it's going to be hostile or friendly. So I'm actually going to roll a d20. On a 1 through 10, the answer is yes, that it's going to be hostile. On an 11 through 20, it's going to be no. All right, so it is some sort of a friendly. We rolled a 17 there. And I'm not really going to go into any specifics, like if it's Federation or anything like that. We just know that this base in our story is going to be friendly. Or I guess it could also be neutral. It's not hostile to us. It's not going to start shooting torpedoes or anything like that. Or at least we hope so. So then we get to generate people, places, and things. So based on your inciting incident, now is the time to roll up the non-player characters, locations, and other details that will help create more conflict in the game. Begin with the allies and adversaries section in Appendix 2 on page 281. And really, I don't really think we need to roll on anything. We could figure out what this Cosmozoan life form is, but I'm not really sure that matters at the moment. So I actually did have to look up what Cosmozoan is. So a Cosmozoan is any living organism that lives in space. While technically any space-dwelling creature can be referred to as a Cosmozoan, including bacteria, the term is usually applied to giant life forms that might as well be as large as starships. That's taken from the Star Trek Online Wikia, by the way. So why don't we go ahead and figure this thing out? So let's go ahead. We're going to roll on page 286. We have the life form origins, the body structure symmetry, the carbon-based life, exotic-based life, the incorporeal life. We have all of these tables to roll on. So let's see what kind of a life form origin we're going to have. That is a 7. So that's going to be carbon-based. And there's another table for carbon-based here. So let's go ahead and roll on that table. Another 7. So that is going to be some sort of a plant. So we have some sort of a large plant thing that's floating out in space. I guess it's kind of like those tree spaceships, like in Saga. Ooh, that would be pretty cool, actually. We're gonna go ahead and roll with that. So we have some sort of a plant-based cosmozoan life form. So really, at this point, we've finished our setup, and the only thing that is left to do is to write your opening captain's log. And so let's go ahead and listen to that, and then we'll actually start playing.
Captain's log. Cita en las estrellas. 3529.2. Stardate 3529.2. A few days ago, the U.S.S. Pathfinder began her journey into unknown space. I have to applaud the crew for being highly efficient. It could be the early stages of wanderlust, but I've decided to give them the benefit of the doubt. With me on this grand 5-year voyage is First Officer Neilman, Chief Medical Officer Orasa, and Chief Engineer Musar. Despite only being in unknown territory for a few days, we've already come across something unusual, an unidentifiable signal. Communications Officer Raka has managed to pinpoint its location, but the message is unclear. He seems to think that the message is some kind of SOS. I cannot take it in good conscience to pass up on the investigation, even if there are some facts that do not quite line up. It could very well be a new form of life unknown to us, and they could be explorers just like us, or maybe they control this sector of space. Then again, it could be Federation or Romulan, and that raises even more questions and concerns.
So let's take a moment real quick before we start playing to go over how the missions are set up. So we've actually just gone ahead and determined the mission type, incident theme, complication and advantages, and then the encounter type. So this is actually prepping you beforehand what your story is going to be about, some things that you can pull and then use in your narration. We are going to have a 3-act episode here, just like in many Star Trek episodes, although each act is going to have at least 5 scenes. And these scenes can have roles on them, which is usually how I determine what a scene is. If I have to roll on it, then that's going to be a scene right there. That's going to be Captain Joaquin doing something or engaging in something, or something is happening, and that's going to be the scene. And then we're going to move on to the next scene. You keep track of if you're successful or not during each of these scenes, and I believe it's like you let that kind of flow into the overall narration until you've reached the end. So our Act 1 is pretty straightforward. We're learning about what's happening. By Act 2, we're starting to notice what the danger is, and then by Act 3 there's going to be some sort of a resolution. That's usually how it is structured in Star Trek or any of these 3-act programs, and so I'm going to try to keep to that, and I think that's a very good method to stick with, at least as you're learning the game or you're starting out with your adventure, because it's straightforward, it's predictable in a way, and it's easy to keep track of. So we've just picked up on a signal out in deep space, and we shouldn't really pick up anything out here because we're actually charting this unexplored territory. So we're going to go ahead and investigate what is this signal. And so I envision that Captain Joaquin is on the bridge, and it's time to go ahead and do a scan of the area. Let's let our sensors do the thing. And we do have an advanced sensor suite, so I think that we're able to get a rather large scan of the entire area so we can try to pick up on something. Let's go ahead and do a sensor scan, and to do that we're actually going to roll sensors science on our starship sheet. So our sensors is 8 and our science is 3, so we're going to combine those together to make a target of 11. So what we'll do, we'll take our 2d20, we'll roll them both, and if it's an 11 or under, we gain a success. Any extra successes that we have will generate momentum, which we can either keep them or we can spend that on an advantage. If we keep it, we can also choose to re-roll a later dice roll, or we could use that to get rid of a complication. And we already have a complication here. It's inferior equipment, so we could potentially get rid of that, but I actually kind of like that we have a little bit of a complication to kind of explain this Cosmozoan taking an interest in our ship. Or maybe it doesn't take an interest in our ship. We'll actually find that out. So let's roll our 2d20. 7 and 11. So that is going to be a success, actually 2 successes. So we will go ahead and keep that momentum. So we'll have momentum to spend. Now, in Star Trek Adventures and any other 2d20 product, I believe you can have a maximum of 6 momentum. In Captain's Log, you can actually only have 1 momentum. You either have it or you don't. You don't get more than 1. So momentum is fairly precious in this game. So we just had a great success on our roll for our sensor scan. And I think now is going to be the time where we need to figure out exactly what's in the area, because I do believe that our sensors are going to pick up on this outpost, and we're going to definitely see that there's something wrong with it. But I also want to know what else is in the area. So is this outpost orbiting a planet? So let's go ahead and roll. I think that's going to be somewhat probable, so let's roll and find out. We have 15, so it is somewhat probable. That is no. It is not orbiting any other planet. So what about an asteroid field? Could it be in an asteroid field? Yes or no? Still going with a somewhat probable. That one's going to be a 9, so that would be a yes. So this outpost is most likely on some sort of an asteroid within an asteroid field. Okay, I can deal with that. So we know that there's something wrong here. We've just come out of warp. We've did a whole scan of the area. We've identified that there is some sort of an outpost on an asteroid in this asteroid field. So I think we're going to go ahead and try to hail the outpost. So that is going to be a communications plus con. So our comm is 8 and our con is 2. So our target number is 10 this time around. So let's go ahead and roll our 2d20 and see what we get. 17 and a 5. So that is going to be a success, but no momentum, and that is okay. We still have our momentum pocketed from our previous roll. And so we managed to open up a comm with the outpost. So I guess now we need to figure out who are these people. Who are we talking to? So let's go ahead and roll on the yes-no probability matrix. This is going to be a 50-50. Is the outpost Federation? 16, that is a no. Oh boy. Is it civilian? Are we dealing with some sort of a private company or investor or something along those lines? 50-50. 9, that is going to be a yes. So it is private. Ooh, very interesting. Let's see what their outlook is on the Federation. So we have the non-player character's Federation outlook. And so this is a single D20. Let's see what their outlook is towards our ship. We have a 2, which is beneficial. So they think that we are beneficial in some way. Probably because their outpost is not doing too good. So I think it's going to be safe to say that these civilians do not really know what's going on with their outpost. We can say that their power supply, something is happening with their power, that it's really a miracle that they're even talking with us in the first place, and their power is basically being drained. And it's not going to be too long before they lose power to the essentials like life support. And so we've managed to get in contact with them, and they're asking us for some help. I think what we're going to do, we're going to assemble a team, and the captain is, of course, going to go over because there really doesn't seem to be much danger going on. We're going to go over and see what we can do to help fix the problem. All right, so for this scene, I think it's just a simple, we teleport all the way over to the outpost, and we have a meeting with whoever is in charge of the outpost. let's take a look at some of the NPCs that we can generate here. And you know what? I think we should probably determine what species they are. So let's go ahead and roll on the original series era. This is going to be just a simple D20 roll. And let's see what we come up with. 20. So we're dealing with a Zeronite. I am actually really unfamiliar with that, but then again, my Star Trek knowledge is not the best. Zeronites are hardy and immune to toxic gases and complications due to bright lighting, and can survive the extreme conditions of the vacuum of space as long as their respirator tanks last. In general, Zeronites are pleasant if somewhat reserved. In addition to their service in Starfleet, Zeronites also serve in various positions within the scientific community and diplomatic corps. Okay, so we're dealing with a Zeronite who are scientists, so we might be dealing with a bunch of scientists here. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody on the station is going to be a Zeronite. There are going to be some people who are not. They could be human. I think that there's just going to be a whole mix, which means that if life support does fail, these people are going to be doomed. So we're going to need to help them in some fashion. Trying to think, and I really don't see a need to have any roles here, but I am going to introduce the complication that we rolled in our mission setup. There's going to be some sort of a complication that arises due to poorly maintained gear or not having the right equipment readily available. And so this could be something as simple as our power system, our power core, or whatever you want to call it, is just not up to snuff. And so one of these plant-like cosmozoans is going to lash onto our ship, although I don't think we really know that just yet. And it's going to start draining power from our ship, which means now we're kind of cut off.
Captain's Log Supplemental. Let it be known for the record that I, Captain Joaquin, have left First Officer Nealman in charge of the Pathfinder in my stead. I, along with the rest of the away team, are trapped on what has been called by the locals Station 53. The station's leader is a Zaranite by the name of Tilarg, and he has been forthcoming about the situation as they've been able to piece together so far. I cannot help but feel that there is something else going on. I fear that Tilarg is hiding something, or at least not revealing everything known. It can't be mere coincidence that the same problems that plague the station now affect the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder is in a bad spot. We're working with an outdated reactor, so while Station 53 has been able to slow down its power drainage, the Pathfinder was not so lucky. The first step into uncovering this mess is to investigate the station's reactor on our end. Hopefully then, we'll be able to figure out what to do about the Pathfinder.
And so here we are. We've been cut off from the ship. The ship's power has been drained. The outpost is not doing too well. So we need to figure out what exactly is going on with not only our ship, but the outpost, and then figure out a solution. Now, that's 3 scenes that we've just come up with. We've arrived. We've gotten in contact with a authority figure on the outpost, and then something has happened to the ship, which has cut us off from the captain and the away crew. And so I think that's actually a fairly good place to kind of cut things off. So this might be a really short episode, like a 3-scene per act kind of a deal. So we're going to have Act 1 with 3 scenes, Act 2 will probably have 3 scenes, and then Act 3 will probably have 3 scenes as well. And so just a quick introduction type of adventure, I suppose. And I think we're just going to go ahead and cut that off right here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support this series, and I will see you guys in the next video.